Hey everyone, so Christopher Adams here. So 2019, just turned 2019. What programming language do I believe would be a valuable one and a very smart one to learn in 2019? Let's see here. Number one popular programming language in the world currently. Tons of job openings for this. You can use this on the front end, the server side. You can use it for mobile. You can use it for web browser based games. You can use it for every single thing basically. And you can run it in any environment. Which programming language am I talking about? Talking about JavaScript. I think learning JavaScript would be a very smart decision to make in 2019. So let me be clear, I am totally open to many programming languages, if not all programming languages, other than maybe CoffeeScript. Not really a fan of CoffeeScript. I had to use it for a year at my last job, and probably the only programming language that I've ever touched that I just didn't really feel much for. But I'm a huge fan of Python, I'm a huge fan of PHP, I'm a huge fan of C#, I'm a huge fan of Java, Kotlin's pretty sweet, really, and TypeScript actually. So if you are getting into JavaScript, TypeScript after you learn JavaScript is the way to go. So you may or may not find JavaScript to be a little bit tricky when you're first starting out to learn it. Especially when you get into things like prototypes and factory functions and just a lot of the weird things that makes JavaScript. But it's a really fun language to get into. World's most popular programming language right now as of January 2019. Tons of people use it. You could use it on just the front end web or server side web using Node, or bring it into you could just run it all over the place using Node, really. So if you don't already know, Node is a platform that allows you to run Chrome's V8 engine outside of the browser. So this allows developers to use JavaScript independently of the web browser, which is really awesome. So by using the platform Node, you can use JavaScript on the server side to communicate with the front end. So much like you would use something like PHP or Python or C#, well, you can use Node, which runs JavaScript programming language. So Node out of the box is pretty much a blank canvas. You actually have to configure many different things, but it only takes a few lines of JavaScript code to build a server in Node, which is really amazing. You can launch web pages and have your server up and running in literally just a few lines of code. So that's pretty sweet. So as of right now, I believe JavaScript is the only programming language that you can use on the client side, aka front end. So one very appealing thing to many developers is to just learn one programming language and be able to use it on both the front end and the back end, rather than having to traditionally learn two separate programming languages, like say JavaScript on the front end and PHP on the server side. So yeah, a lot of smaller companies and even larger companies are adopting Node. So it's a it's not tried and tested platform. It's actually pretty new platform. So it has a lot of maturing to do to catch up with something like PHP. But what makes Node so powerful is that it has a large community around it, putting out packages that you can basically install to make your Node ecosystem larger and larger and larger and larger. So if you find yourself running into a problem and you're like, dang, I really wish there's a solution out there that could help with this problem, well, guess what? There's most likely a package for it already that you can install and run in Node. So maybe now you all are starting to understand why JavaScript is a very good choice in a programming language to learn. While I believe that all programming languages are worthy of your time because a lot of the concepts are transferable. So for instance, say you learn about for loops or while loops and how to write a function, how to write a class. Well, guess what? All of that knowledge is pretty much transferable to another programming language. You just have to learn the syntax of it, which is pretty trivial. I can also give you all some real-world examples that I've encountered at my last two workplaces. Well, my current workplace and the job I had before this one. And that is, so I went in for, I think, a job interview, and I said that I'm pretty proficient with JavaScript. So you might hear vanilla JavaScript. Well, that basically means like pure JavaScript. No jQuery, none of that. So what happened? At that job, I had to learn CoffeeScript and I think a little bit of jQuery. Nah, at that job, I just had to learn CoffeeScript. And my employer was like, well, if you can learn JavaScript, then you can learn CoffeeScript really easily. He was impressed that I knew JavaScript, right? That was one case. And guess what? I did learn CoffeeScript pretty easily. But for my current job, my engineering manager was like, oh, if you can learn JavaScript, then you can learn PHP pretty easily and jQuery pretty easily. And prior to my current workplace, I actually never used jQuery or PHP. Very, very, very little. But I picked it up pretty fast all in all, and you know, JavaScript's a little trickier than both of those, so that's why a lot of them look favorably upon JavaScript, or maybe not favorably, but they look upon JavaScript like, okay, this guy can learn a programming language. All right, so once again, let me reiterate that I'm not saying JavaScript's the best language in the world, and just because it's the most popular programming language in the world, and that it's a really good choice to choose as a programming language, that it's like the end-all be-all, like everything should be solved with JavaScript and stuff like that. No, I'm saying that if you just had to choose one programming language right now to put a lot of time and effort and energy into, I would say JavaScript would be a very smart choice. Whether you work at a huge enterprise company or small business or freelance, well, you know, you're probably going to end up using JavaScript regardless, especially if you're working on the front end or if you do full stack. That is for sure. So one additional point for why I believe JavaScript is a good language to learn in 2019, and that is because front-end frameworks are the huge craziness right now, right? Everybody is all like, oh, React this, or Angular that, or Vue this, or Vue that, right? Well, guess what? Like, in order to be able to use these frameworks, you do need to have a half-decent knowledge of JavaScript. If you don't, I can pretty much guarantee you're going to have a lot of troubles with any one of them, Vue, Angular, or React. And I would say especially React, because, well, for one, React is pretty heavy JavaScript. I've used, I've used some React on a couple different projects, and I'm very grateful that I have a pretty decent knowledge of vanilla JavaScript, because if I didn't, there would be far more trickiness to it. I haven't used Vue or Angular, but I mean, at the end of the day, all of these compile down to JavaScript. So it is a very wise decision to know JavaScript fairly well before jumping into any front-end framework. So this is another reason why JavaScript is a good language to choose. Also, though, I should say that if you do have a lot of time on your hands and you're not in a rush to land a job as a full-time professional developer or anything like that, you should take some time to learn more than one programming language, for sure. Like if you are taking the JavaScript route and you want to be exposed to some concepts that aren't present in JavaScript, then I would highly recommend dabbling in something like C# or Java, because these languages will instill some pretty big fundamentals as far as classic object-oriented programming concepts, which aren't necessarily present in JavaScript, or a lot of other languages, actually. So I think learning one of those two languages would also be a good decision to supplement your JavaScript programming language, but it's not absolutely necessary. I know quite a few people who have never used a strongly typed or statically typed programming language like C# or Java before, and they are, they do fine as developers. They know some stuff that I certainly don't know, and so yeah, I hope this video helped you out. in your decision making for a programming language, I say you should act upon it now. Don't dwell on it, because I also know a couple of people that for months and months have been saying that they're going to venture into this one programming language, but I feel like maybe just the overwhelming nature of, oh man, there's like all these programming languages. How do I know I'm making the smart choice with this programming language? Well, it's better to just get started and to learn those concepts, because like I said, for my previous job, I had no knowledge of CoffeeScript, and I got hired to be a CoffeeScript developer. At my current job, I had very, very, very little knowledge of PHP, but I got hired to be a PHP developer. So yeah, at my current job, just giving you a little heads up here, I do full stack web development. So I do the front end and the server side, both on a daily basis. JavaScript on the front end, PHP on the server. But we do have some teams that use Node and power full stack JavaScript applications. So just giving you that little bit of detail there. Yeah, so I'm gonna wrap this video up. I hope you guys have a very awesome week. It's Friday for me here, so I'm looking forward to the weekend, and look forward to putting out some videos here pretty soon. See you guys, like and subscribe, and bye.